Like to check in around the region from time to time. This time we're checking in Pennfield with Supervisor Dave Morgan, who's here with us today. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Richard. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you for the time today. We appreciate that. So let's talk now that we're sort of at the end of the year and maybe you're looking ahead to the next year. Are there priorities in your mind in Pennfield right now?
Well, out in Pennfield, and actually throughout everybody's community, roads are always a topic that the residents talk about. Now in Pennfield, we're scheduled to be done with all of our local roads in 2017, so we're ahead of most of the townships in the area, with the exception of Bedford, who also passed a millage for their road improvements. So everything in Pennfield's going very well.
That's an interesting subject, the issue of roads, and some communities decide millages are the way to go. Some say, why don't you just do an assessment? Others say, we don't want to do either one of those, like in Emmett, for example, where they're wrestling with this issue. How did you arrive at this situation in terms of reconciling it in your mind?
Well, luckily, when I was elected, it was already done. Now, Pennfield, we voted for a millage increase, we passed that for the road improvements. Bedford did an assessment on each lot. And then different communities, I'm not sure, I think Tim's went for it out in Emmett for a millage, and it's failed a couple times.
Correct.
And it's really a hard thing to get passed because people are struggling right now. People have a lot of challenges, and many families are just getting by. So right now, government's got to be extra careful on the dollars they spend and represent the people the best possible.
Yeah, this is not an easy thing. The costs for these things are not going down either.
Right, and the state needs to step in, I think, at a state level and help the townships more and have more shared assets towards roads and infrastructure throughout the communities, and not count on people actually putting their houses up for collateral when you have a millage. I mean, they're actually saying, we're willing to put our house up for collateral for this millage if it passes. And that's quite a burden to put on people.
Sure is.
And we don't know the future. And some of these millages go for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. You don't know what the future holds. So I think the better government can be, in local and state, with shared assets for ones, working together like we're going to try to do with Emmett Township, Bedford, and ourselves. I think everybody's better off for that.
We're here with Dave Morgan from Pennfield Township. We'll take a break and come back on WBCK. Supervisor Dave Morgan is here from Pennfield Township, now the supervisor in Pennfield Township. We were talking about this road thing, and we've talked with Tim Hill about that on a regular basis in Emmett, because his notion is, townships are not part of the Act 51 that assigns where money goes from the state to road endeavors, and maybe they should be. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, Act 51 sends most of the money to the county,
right,
and then we deal with the counties. Luckily, we have a county commissioner, Steve Frisbee, out there. He's wonderful to work with, and our county board's great. Derek King's the chair there. We pay, I think it's a 70-30 split right now for the roads. It would be nice if the state did participate a little bit more and help the local roads, local townships, because townships are struggling, and it's a big part of government because it's the closest government to the people. And luckily out at Pennfield, we have a great staff, great people out there, and very interactive with the community. So, we're very close-knit. And it's like a big family out in Pennfield. But as far as the state and the funding goes, yeah, we need more money coming from the state level.
Tim says he's going to bend the ear of our lawmakers to try and influence them to discuss this in Lansing. Will you do that too?
Oh, absolutely. We have a great state representative in John Bison now. He's very active. Dave Matern's in the 63rd here. So we have the group of people in place now to make some changes, I believe. So the next 2 years is the time to do it if we're going to do it.
All right. And if you're listening to this and you think that's a priority, that you need more road money in your local municipality, we've been talking for a couple of months about how budgets affect local municipalities. The state budget director was on yesterday. He said, tell your representative about that. And that would be Dr. Bison, of course. And so if you want that kind of attention, tell his office. In fact, he'll be here later in the week. So this collaboration among townships, I guess, is as a result of necessity, because municipalities are not getting revenue sharing and other things that they used to get. Property values are down, that sort of thing. You're feeling that too, I presume.
Well, yeah, each township's its own entity. We all have our own ways of doing things, but you can always do, items better. So working together with Bedford, Emmett, Pennfield, nothing, only good things can really happen.
Well, and this was the notion that if you can work together on some things, then that's a good thing. And it seems like that message was well received, at least.
Yeah, it is.
So as you talk about economic development and the future of Pennfield, what's happening in that area?
Well, Pennfield, of course, we have the possibility of Walmart coming in. We're looking at 2019. That's our target date, hopefully, for that to happen. Working with our local business. We have some great local businesses out there that have been there for a long time. I could name, Pennfield Pizza, Ernie Losky out at State Farm, and Mr. Fogg Motors has been there 50 years, and we could go on and on and on. Pennfield's just a great community with a lot of history, and a lot of people have lived there for a long time. Our family's been there since 1845, and we're not uncommon. I mean, there's a lot of families that have been there, for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so is with this Walmart potential, how is that viewed? What have you been hearing from Pennfield residents about that?
Well, I think most of the people want economic development. We want property values to go up. And one thing for Emmett Township residents who haven't passed the millage, all they should do is drive out to Pennfield, drive down a couple of our roads, and our property values are increasing as the roads get better, and the same thing will happen in Emmett if they do pass it. So I would strongly support the millage in Emmett. It's worked in Pennfield. Rob Banky, our former supervisor, I've got to give him the credit. He worked very hard on that. It got it passed along with the staff. Barb Darlington's out at Pennfield. She's my deputy supervisor, or I should say we're part of a team together, because she keeps me in line out there, as does Kathy Case, our clerk, and many others. So working together as a team, I think Pennfield's going to be in good shape.
It's interesting because that Emmett situation has failed twice now. Is it hard for folks, you think, when, as you say, when folks are struggling, think about, I don't need one more bill to go up? Is it hard to look beyond that?
Well, there's many challenges for people, and when I walked houses when I was running, that's the sad thing. You see people are getting by paycheck to paycheck. I think as a government, we'll pass millages and sometimes forget about them, but we always need to reassess where we're at the time. And what was important 10 years ago may not be quite as important now. And we need to look at ways to reduce costs for families, and especially on their properties, because property, you need a home. I mean, the home's number one. So in my view, that's the last place we should be adding taxes. There's other ways to do it through, I'd rather pay a higher sales tax than a property tax any day of the week. Because why put somebody's home up for risk, at risk? For a millage they may not even believe in.
Dave Morgan's here from Pennfield Township. We'll pick up where we leave off in just a second. We're here with Supervisor Dave Morgan, Pennfield Township. A few more minutes with Dave. One of the things, and we talked about roads, but certainly infrastructure in city is got to be constantly watched, doesn't it, in townships and municipalities?
Right, and we just came to a wastewater agreement with the city, and that's going to include Emmett, Bedford, Springfield, and Leroy, I believe. And that's going to be a long-term solution for all the communities as far as the wastewater agreement goes, which we'll be voting on tonight at our township meeting. So far, it's passed in Emmett, passed in Bedford, and I believe it's passed in the city. And will be the next ones up tonight.
So what does this mean for Pennfield?
Well, it's a long-term solution, so that's what we look for. It's going to be a long-term agreement that we won't have to address for a long time, that serves our residents the best way possible. Wastewater
in Pennfield goes through city processing by way of this agreement.
Yep, and Rebecca Fleury's been great down there to work with. So we'll address that tonight. Hopefully it passes, and we'll move on from there.
Yeah, this is something that gets readdressed every so many years, I presume.
Yeah, it's been, I believe the last contract was for 30 years that ended, but it's been, there's been a gap. So this'll extend it out now for a long-term solution.
All right. What other business is on your docket? Anything of that nature, or usual routine stuff at this point?
Well, it's routine, but we have with the holiday season coming up, of course, that's an exciting time out at Pennfield. We have the annual holiday gathering, which will be this Thursday, December 15th, and it's from 6 p.m. to 7:30 at our Township Hall, and of course our people will be there. We have Karen, Sandy, Desiree, and Sherry. They'll all be there with the rest of our group, our team. So
all right,
we're
day
looking
after
forward
tomorrow.
to it. Even Santa Claus wants to come to Pennfield. Okay?
Well, you got to get on his schedule early, I presume.
And there's good roads, so he has a place to land.
Well, that's very important.
Right.
All right. There was a fair amount of coverage given to a house fire in Pennfield not long ago, and that was at the home of a gentleman who's been well known in Pennfield for a while, hasn't he?
Right. Ron and Sherry. Ron's been in Pennfield for over 40 years, done a lot for our community, and they had the devastating fire. They lost their home, lost their pets. It's a terrible tragedy. And, we, as a community, we always come together. Pennfield's always been a close-knit community. And I've seen it over and over between the Lions Club, the Rotary Club,
Sure.
Come together and help each other out, and they have in this case.
Mm-hmm. Ron Rosinski and Sherry Van Sant now have a GoFundMe page set up as there are concerns that their insurance will not cover their complete loss. And as you said, they lost their home and their pets and all of that. I understand they've been staying with relatives. There is a GoFundMe page. Not easy to set those up, mind you. Mm-hmm. You have to meet some qualifications, and so that's been set up. You can go to GoFundMe and find that for them. There's also an event on Saturday, this Saturday, the 17th, 3:30 to 7 at the Eagles Lodge in Pennfield. It's a potluck dinner, so bring a dish to pass. There'll be entertainment, raffles, door prizes, and a cash bar, and the proceeds will help Ron and Sherry in Pennfield to try and recover from this devastation that they suffered at their home in Pennfield Township. So that's a couple of opportunities to help, and as you say, folks have been stepping up to do that, so that's nice.
Absolutely. And with tragedy, there's always a silver lining in some ways, and our fire department was extraordinary. The sheriff's department was extraordinary in that case, responding. We have Tim Smith, who's our fire chief. We use, of course, the county sheriff's office is who patrols Pennfield.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the best things I think about this job is, every day I come to work, I'm working with heroes. So our fire department's extraordinary.
Well, kudos to them, and congratulations to you and your new post. And we'll stay in touch, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Appreciate
the visit.
it.
Supervisor Dave Morgan, Pennfield Township on WBCK.